Keep Nintendo weird, everybody. It's me, Seth from All In a Nintendo Podcast. So thrilled to be here with you today. And maybe coming at you slightly more metal, or looking at least than normal. This was totally unintentional, but I wake up this morning and my hair is a mess. And I just kind of like get a nearby beanie and throw it on. Happens to be a beanie from Psychic Circle Oddities, which is a shop that I really like. And then I make my coffee, and again, totally unintentionally, I swear I'm not just being like a shill for Psychic Circle Oddities, but I grab my Halloween Forever mug from them to have my coffee in this morning. And I don't know, I think I'm just looking for fall, you guys. I'm looking for fall. I'm over it this summer. I'm over it. You know, normally Summer and I have an okay relationship. But I mean, like, when you live down south, when you live in Louisiana, like I do, and it's hot and muggy and humid, and this summer has been really rainy, too. And it's like, you know, it's like hurricane season down here. I'm just kind of over it. I'm looking for fall. And honestly, I'm looking for fall in terms of video games, too, because, like, we have some cool AAA Nintendo stuff happening. I mean, like, a couple days from now, when you're listening to this, when this goes live, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD comes out. I'm really excited about that. I'm actually really looking forward to replaying that. You guys may or may not know, if you're fans of my stuff, you've been listening to me for a little while, Legend of Zelda is my favorite video game series of all time. And so I am really looking forward to that. Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to all kinds of stuff. But, you know, Metroid Dread, the Switch OLED, which we talked about a lot on the new All In last week. So I'm not going to get into that here. But I'm looking forward to the weird Nintendo feast happening. Of course, later this month, we've got Neo The World Ends With You. We've got Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. But then, like, in September, we get WarioWare Get It Together. We get in October, Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. We get in December, the new Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, or whatever the heck it's called. By the way, I've been playing Into the Breach lately on my Switch. Goodness, that's a good game. That game is so good. I'm like, this is like Slowpoke meme status right now, but Into the Breach is really good, you guys. Speaking of an Advance Wars holdover, but I'm off track. I'm rambling now. I haven't had enough coffee yet, but we're always keeping the weird Nintendo steam train rolling here on this show. Of course, that's what we're all about. And I am hooking up today with my good buddy Dan Caporello from RetroLogic, one of my best friends in the podcasting world. Great guy. I have had Dan on my show. I've been on Dan's show. That was it was funny, serendipitous that it worked out this way, because we had him on All In for a new Pokemon Snap review, and in the same week, I went on his show, so it was like a crossover week. And we're kind of doing the same thing again, because Dan's coming on Keep Nintendo Weird today, and I was on his show, RetroLogic, to talk Banjo-Kazooie. If you guys didn't know, when you blah, 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 blah right there on my shelf, you know, I'm a huge Banjo-Kazooie fan, one of my favorite games of all time. So he invited me to come back to RetroLogic to yell about Banjo-Kazooie, and I was happy to oblige that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be leaving links to everything RetroLogic in the episode description so that you guys can go back and check that out and support our friend Dan. By the way, this is not going to be the last time you see Dan on this show or hear Dan on this show. He and I are kindred spirits in many ways, but also Weird Nintendo is certainly one of them. And like Buck Bumble comes up in this conversation. So I mean, we just love Dan, and he's definitely gonna have to come back. But in his debut episode, we are talking Gotcha Force, which we landed on Gotcha Force because A, it's a game that Dan loves, one of his favorite GameCube games, and it's a game that has a lot of personal connection to his show, RetroLogic, and his community, and we're going to talk about that story. It's a great episode, and I promise you guys we're going to move off of GameCube eventually. GameCube was just a great era for weird Nintendo games, so get off my back. I promise we'll leave GameCube and take a break from GameCube soon, I promise. But for now, we are covering another GameCube game this week, and Gotcha Force is a game that I've never played. It's like one of those stupidly rare, expensive GameCube games. But so it was a total treat to have Dan on to just let him gush about this game that he really loves. So that's what you guys are going to hear right here, right now. And yeah, without any further ado, let's welcome Dan to the show, and let's enjoy another episode of Keep Nintendo Weird. All right, Dan, how are you doing, my friend?
How's it going, Seth? I am hyped to be here tonight.
I am hyped to have you here tonight, man. One of my favorite podcasting buddies. So much hype talking about Gotcha Force, a game that I know you are extremely passionate about. I cannot wait. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
I
Let's.
love getting ahead of myself. It's my favorite. I'm already ahead of myself.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, we have to set the stage at least. Let's
Okay.
talk about you for a few minutes and talk about RetroLogic and introduce, if people are not already fans of RetroLogic and just everything that you have going on, they will be by the end of this episode. So, indoctrinate the folks, my friend. What tell everybody about RetroLogic and what you have going on.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for the opportunity to talk about RetroLogic. It's
Yes, sir.
awesome. So basically what it is a podcast, it's a game store, it's a community, and it is soon to be a blog and a YouTube channel. And we
Nice.
are just a bunch of retro gaming fans. And our goal is to create a space that is non-toxic, that's open to anybody. Collectors, non-collectors, even if you're just like a modern gamer and you have nostalgia for the old stuff, you're super welcome to come hang out with us. The podcast itself is me, my buddy John, and my buddy Sam, and we're all kind of like experts in our own little world, and we just talk about anniversaries of game launches. We play a game called Price is Retro, where we try to guess the modern value of certain collectible games. And we have guests on and we let them talk about games they're passionate about. So that's really the gist of it. The game store itself is just a place that I wanted to create where it's just a safe place to buy retro games. Cause a lot of times you buy online or you buy in a store and it's hard to tell if it's authentic or it doesn't work or it's dirty, and everything at the store is clean, authenticated, and guaranteed to work. And like literally I have a tote bin with the games in my closet, in an air conditioned closet, and I'm the one packing it and sending it to you. So it's not some mysterious force like GameStop
Right.
or game exchange where it's like, how did they get here and do these people even care? Like, I care a lot. So that's a kind of the gist of RetroLogic. We've got some cool new content coming around the corner, so make sure you follow me on Twitter at RetroLogic Games. I'm posting all kinds of crazy stuff, and I don't know, I just like to have fun on Twitter. So if you like to have fun on Twitter, that's a good place to hang out with me. And while you're there, go to my bio and click the Discord link to join the community, and that's really where we get down and dirty with all the retro gaming fan stuff. So that's probably about as short as I can explain what RetroLogic is.
I for sure want to point people to the game store because, like, you're right. Like the retro, and you and I could have a whole conversation about this, but like,
and should
the retro collecting scene, man, is so like, it's so crazy. Like, and everything is, you never know what you're getting into when you buy online. So I want to point folks to that. And of course, you guys are going to find links to everything Dan and RetroLogic in the episode description, including the game store, which is like, I have purchased things from you. I have a Wii that I bought from you.
Yes.
And like, it's well packaged, cleaned, like everything is in good shape. You're not getting ripped off or anything like that. So I'm not just shilling my friend's stuff. I'm an actual, I have done business with you, and I want to point people there for sure.
Well, I really appreciate it. And we have merch. We have stickers and t-shirts and buttons and stuff like that.
I should have worn my RetroLogic shirt.
Yeah. Me too. What the heck?
Woefully unprepared. But yeah, the shirts are great. The merch is great. Everything that you do is really high quality. I really admire that about you.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I like you have a huge understanding of like quality standards, and that's something that I connected with about you really early on in our relationship, because it's like I felt a really a kinship to you early on when it comes to like content creation and passion and creative drive. So I just, as many opportunities as I can find to make content with you, I take. So yeah, thrilled to be here with you tonight.
Well, that goes double for me, my friend. I love hanging out with you and chatting with you, and your content is always so fun to listen to. You guys have a great time, and I really,
thanks, man.
really, really love it.
Thanks, I appreciate that. But enough of the butt kissing or whatever. Let's get into it, dude. Let's talk Gotcha Force. This has been like, by the way, guys, this is not going to be the last time you see this man on this channel. I mean, like, for sure gonna have Dan back. There are a million weird Nintendo games I could have talked
Yeah.
about with you.
Speaking of kindred spirits, we are both fans of just the weird. I mean, I sent you a list on Discord the other day of like, here's all the games I could talk about with you that are just weird Nintendo things.
Right. So, but we ended up going with Gotcha Force for your debut appearance here on Keep Nintendo Weird. And the reason for that, and I want you to talk about kind of your history with the game, what the game is, because I think a lot of people are probably, woefully unaware of what Gotcha Force even is. But it also has a lot of kind of personal connection with you and RetroLogic and stuff like that. So set the stage for me. What is Gotcha Force?
Okay, so in the simplest terms, Gotcha Force is a third-person arena battler, and it's like a little bit custom robo, a little bit Pokemon, a little bit mobile game, gotcha style mobile game. And like it's in the namesake, it's called Gotcha Force because you're unlocking these capsules that, give you either a new character or a piece of a character or a character with a different color scheme, that kind of thing. And there's different rarities and all that. And it follows the story of this kid Ku who a meteor crash lands on his planet and he runs out to find it, and it's this little robot toy, and suddenly he can like control the little robot toy in arenas fighting these aliens. And your gameplay is basically that a different, you're going into different battles. There's no overworld, there's no map per se. You're essentially doing battle after battle after battle. Which can seem really repetitive, but what makes it interesting is that your team is constantly changing, like Pokemon. You're constantly getting new toys, new Borgs, new robots, ninjas, all kinds of stuff, dinosaurs. There's something like 200 plus different toys with variants, and they're all playable. And there's some really, really cool end game stuff that I can get into later in the podcast. I don't want to spoil anything here, but maybe later we can do a little bit of a spoiler section.
Sure.
But that mechanic taken to its extreme gets pretty bonkers later in the game. So that's what the game is at its core, which like nowadays you're looking at what's coming out and it does not, it's interesting, but it's not probably like intriguing or like gonna pull you in just looking at what it is. When I saw it on the shelf at GameStop, having no idea what it was because there was essentially zero marketing for this game. It looks like here's the cover art. You got a dude, you got a toy. It says Gotcha Force on the front. You turn the back, and there's like an army of robots and ninjas and toys and tanks, and you're like, okay, this looks sick. I'm buying this. And it gave me vibes of something like Toy Commander on the Dreamcast. Yes. Or it even did give me like Digimon type vibes, which I also enjoy.
The art looks like that, totally.
Oh, yeah. I think it might have been... No, it wasn't the same artist, but it was somebody related, like they worked at the studio or something, if I'm remembering correctly. But so for me, it was just this super fun little repetitive game. We played multiplayer with my friends. I super enjoyed it. And this game can get really long because you beat it. I don't know what the time to beat is. Probably something like 50 hours, 60 hours to beat because there's a lot of battling. And because there's not a lot of like variation to what you do, the game can essentially just keep throwing different battles at you, right? And that's the game. And so your battles can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on what you're fighting and how many Borgs are on the team that you're fighting. So I probably logged around 200 hours in this game because once you beat it, you get New Game Plus and you keep all of the toys that you collected the first time around.
Yes.
So that's pretty insane. And so I think I made it through 3 times when I was a kid. So loved this game as a kid. I, grew up 2008, the fateful year that I decided to sell every video game thing that I owned.
Oh, heartbreaking.
And it was I wish I could do like a Back to the Future moment and just go back and say like,
right.
don't do that.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
There's more here than what you think. So, it was, and then, just lived my life, got, whatever. And then 2 years ago, I started recollecting. This game today, complete in box, it hovers around $500.
Mm-hmm.
It is incredibly rare. Nobody bought it. It had a very short lifespan, a very small printing in the US. They actually reprinted it in Japan in like 2009 or something insane.
Really?
It had a toy line in Japan. It had like a manga series in Japan. And if I ever see any of those toys go up for sale anywhere, that's going to be mine.
I was going to ask if you managed to snag any of those yet. Yeah.
They have never, to my knowledge, to what I've found online and like message boards talking about it and Reddit posts talking about it, nobody's ever seen one go for sale anywhere. So it's going to have to be a trip to Japan to try to find them. That's what it's going to have to come down to.
You're just going to have to make that happen. I mean, that definitely is like the vibe I get from the game. And this is one of those, like, we're going to cover on Keep Nintendo Weird over the course of its life a lot of games that I'm familiar with and have played. I've never played Gotcha Force. Mm-hmm. And as you touched on, it is not the kind of game that is easily accessible today, right? Unfortunately. But it does strike me in like looking at videos and hearing about the game and doing research, like it does strike me as like this kind of the Saturday morning cartoon in a video game form. Like that's totally what Gotcha Force is. It's everything that we loved growing up, right? In video game form.
And there's multiple, like, the structure of the story is very, very Saturday morning cartoon because you have rivals and you have friends, and then your rivals become your friends and they join your team. And there's like a couple of dudes that are like really hard to beat, but once you beat them, they'll join your team. Like, and there's a lot of like story content, which is just like, dialogue between characters in between battles. And yeah, it is very, very Saturday morning cartoon, very Pokemon-esque.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I am trying to find this game, right? And it's just my Holy Grail GameCube game. And as you saw earlier, I do own a copy now. But so I started RetroLogic in October, made tons of friends in the retro gaming community. And for my birthday this year, my brother and a couple of the guys from the community all pooled their money and got me a copy. And they did not pay like crazy amount for it, which I'm really thankful. Right. They didn't like go out and spend $1 million trying to get me a birthday present. They found a good deal on one. And they even got, because the case that it came in is a little worn. It's got some water damage, so it's not in great shape. So they got me like a reprinted case and a reprinted manual. But the disc is original and it plays beautifully. And it's as addictive today as it was 15, 20 years ago. It's insane. And so I have the best retro gaming community in the world for that. And it's just a really cool family.
What was that like for you? Like when you kind of have all this build up, because that was definitely your Holy Grail. You're talking about it on the show. It's all this build up, and then like your birthday rolls around and they give you a copy of the game. They give you the Holy Grail. What was that like?
It was kind of, so I had a little bit of a hunch about what it was going to, like a little bit, because I was actively searching for a copy. And I kept finding them when I'd like show my brother and I'd be like, hey, like, check this out. And one day he was just like, Dan, maybe just stop trying to buy a copy of Gotcha Force. And I was like, what? Why? He's like,
why would you say that?
Just maybe don't for a little while. And I was like, okay, I mean, you're my brother. I love you and I trust you. And then like a couple months later, when birthday rolls around and he's like, hey, like, how do we get you to open a present on stream? then the wheels were turning in my head. I was like, they're not going to do what I think they're going to do, are they?
Right.
But even if I knew what it was going to be, I don't even know what to equate it to. It doesn't even seem like it was real. It was like I was dreaming, because like I think I've literally had dreams about this game, like finding it somewhere for $1. You know what I mean? Like you have crazy stuff like that when there's an item in your mind that you're just fixated on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a game collector, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody has a Holy Grail.
Yep.
And so, yeah, opening it and I clipped my reaction to it, because like I was literally shaking holding the disc, like in disbelief that I was actually holding a copy of Gotcha Force that I owned. That was like mine to have to play whenever I want. It was super bizarre to have that kind of feeling. And now it's like, okay, well, what's my next Holy Grail? And I honestly,
right,
like the next thing, like maybe a Donkey Kong 64 banana controller.
Mm-hmm.
Like those run about $300, so that would be kind of an out of reach thing. But that's not even a game, right? It's just kind of a cool thing to have.
Like
and
a
it's
single
more
tear was shed when there was no more land to conquer, right?
Yeah, basically. Like I'm kind of like, cool, I'm good, guys. Like, what do I collect now? You know?
Yeah.
There's some Dreamcast games I like to get my hands on, but those are not. None of them hold a candle to the place in my heart that Gotcha Force held. So yeah, pretty insane, pretty bonkers.
You get to reclaim that bit of your childhood. I mean, that's what it's all about for like retro collecting. That's why I kind of feel like Gotcha Force is the perfect game to talk about with you, because like that's your whole deal, is retro and retro collecting and stuff. And I mean, that is what the game represents in not only its theming, not only the Saturday morning cartoon childhood kind of theming, but literally it represents that piece of your childhood that you got to take back. So
yeah,
I mean, that's the dream, man. I'm happy that you got to do that. And I imagine the first thing you did was threw that in your GameCube or Wii or whatever and started playing, right?
Man, that night, dude, I think like it was after my stream, so I didn't get to stream that night. I had to do podcast, but then after the podcast, it was like 2 a.m. I'm up playing Gotcha Force. Like I have a family, I have to go to sleep, but
right. Oh man, that's awesome. I love it. So you got this game, right? The setup of it, you know, the kind of game it is, it didn't, like you said, didn't sell super well. It's on a system like the GameCube, which I mean, we all love the GameCube, and in many ways the GameCube is one of my favorite Nintendo systems. But the thing did not sell well, and is commercially at least kind of a failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of already has something working against it, just in the sense that the GameCube didn't have a lot of people that owned it. So not a lot of copies floating around, not a lot of people to support it. And then, you know, they're trying to make this thing take off in Japan. It kind of doesn't. And I mean, like, it's one of those things where it's like, it seems like a well of untapped potential, something that should have been a thing and didn't really get to be.
Yeah, it's almost like they were trying to capitalize on the Pokemon Digimon craze and didn't put forth the effort to market it in the way that Pokemon as like a transmedia property kind of succeeded.
Right.
You know? It wasn't, they just didn't put forth the effort to market it. I think that as a game, it's good enough to warrant that kind of treatment.
Right.
And I don't, you know, there's so little information online about the inner workings of the development and the behind the scenes at Capcom. Whereas like more popular games, and even games that are not popular, but have sort of like a pieces of history tied behind them. Whereas this game doesn't, there's no legacy. It just happened and then it was over. Or a fan base, you know, to kind of like ask for that kind of information,
to hunt it down.
Yeah, right. There's the fan base is is tiny, right? It's there's the people who play and love Gotcha Force, who are the incredible minority, and then there are the people who are collecting GameCube games,
Right.
who don't
Yes.
know what it is, but it is now famous for being a $500 GameCube game and nothing more. So
And that's a bummer too, because we're starting to see that, especially when like finances get involved and stuff, and collecting gets involved. But I mean, like, it sounds to me like, the development behind the game is probably a story that should be told. I mean, what do you know? I mean, what is there out there to know about the game's development? I mean, I know it's
yeah.
kind of shrouded in mystery a little bit, but what can you shine any light on it?
So the only real like solid information that we can get about like the story of the development, which is I'm gonna butcher his name, and I'm so sorry to
No worries.
anybody who listens who speaks Japanese. Atsushi Tomita, who that name might mean something to you if you are a fan of the Marvel vs. Capcom fighting games, because he was a pretty important designer on those games. He was the lead designer on Gotcha Force. And so, like I was saying, he started with a lot of the early Capcom PS1 games, Children of the Atom, Marvel Superheroes, went on to do the Marvel vs. Capcom series. And then Gotcha Force was his last game with Capcom. And then it just kind of fizzled out, didn't do a whole lot after that. Is that
right?
So which is kind of crazy. And like, if you play Gotcha Force, it does have some elements to it that are very like fighting game. It's not a fighting game. It is a third person shooter at best, but it's definitely not a fighting game. But it has those kinds of twitchy elements to it, where you can kind of see the through line, where somebody who knew how to make a fighting game made a third person arena battler. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has very unique skill sets. The gameplay is very, very reactive and very twitchy, extremely twitchy. Like, if you're unaware of what's going on while playing this game, you're going to be totally lost in a blur of color, because it is very fast, depending on the Borg that you're using. Or it's just going to look like you're a giant dinosaur and you're destroying everything. Like, it can get that micro or macro depending on what character you choose to play as. But I say that to say that he just never caught, like, after Marvel vs. Capcom didn't really know what to do with him, put him on Gotcha Force. And then he worked on a couple Gundam games, which totally also makes sense for the kind of game, like an arena, robot fighting game that Gotcha Force is. It's sort of this one sort of like weird shining moment where he got to sort of design whatever he wanted in a way. And he made Gotcha Force. I don't know. There's a lot that we don't know. I don't know how much Capcom was pushing him to make a Pokemon, Digimon competitor.
Sure.
But, you can tell, as mixed as the reviews are for this game, if you play it, you can tell that there was love poured into the characters and the story and the character design, especially. The Borgs, like, the 200 toys that you can play as are all totally uniquely designed and modeled and have different animations, and like kind of makes Pokemon look like Pokemon Stadium look bad, because I'm literally control. Yeah. Like they now, to be fair, the models are probably a lot more simple because they're made to look like toys. They have simpler polygons and stuff like that, but the animations are fantastic. The characters are just lovable and have a lot of attitude and character. And, yeah, I love this game.
Yeah, I that's so impressive to me. And like, what a what an ambitious project for somebody like that who cut his teeth on like fighting games and something like that, you know, to okay, I'm gonna make this like multimedia property with toys, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna take on Digimon and Pokemon and stuff like
Sure.
that. And maybe it was a story of like, you know, expectation, like Capcom was betting on this being bigger than it was, or whatever. But I mean, it it's interesting, like, and actually Capcom's like take on the GameCube in general is interesting. The way they approached the GameCube and like kind of
Yeah.
tried to support it. The Capcom 5 is famous, of course.
But the funny thing is,
Um,
like, this is exclusively a GameCube game, and
right.
it is not one of the Capcom 5.
No.
So, like, what is it? Why? Okay, first of all, why was it a GameCube exclusive if it's not in the Capcom 5? And then also, why wasn't it on PS2? Like an incredibly more
Right.
successful platform. Like, yes, it is obviously marketed as a kids game. Why wouldn't you put it on PS2? All of that stuff is like just lost to time, you know. Like someday maybe we'll get an interview where we get all these questions answered. Maybe I'm the guy to do it.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yes.
I don't know.
You need to tackle that, man.
I need to
Reach
learn
out to some of these
Japanese
folks.
first.
Yeah, well, that's fair. I looked up the release date just now, and it came out right in that same pocket as games in the Capcom 5. 2003 is right there in, you're talking Beautiful Joe timeframe, also released in 03. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it boils down to, like you said earlier, they didn't market the game correctly. That was where so
At
much of
all.
the interest came from, was like, you know, the Capcom 5, we're blowing it out, we're supporting the GameCube. This could have totally worked into that slot.
Capcom
You know,
6.
what a shame. Right, yeah. Or like one of the Capcom, what was that, Dead Phoenix or whatever, didn't even come out.
Never got released. And so this was the fifth one.
Should have been.
There was no Dead Phoenix.
What a bummer. Yeah, I'm seeing this here. Like you said, they reprint it in March 2012. People are starting to be like, "Oh, is there maybe like a sequel coming or something like that?" Or maybe they were just trying to
which is
interest.
insane. Why are you reprinting a GameCube game in 2012?
2012. That's nuts.
It doesn't make any sense.
That's not even 10 years ago. And then the reviews I'm seeing
it's
here,
7 years after you killed the GameCube. What are you doing?
Right.
Like,
and the review spread, I mean, it is like the definition of mixed reviews, because I'm seeing this game got scores as high as like an 8.5 from some places, and then as low as like a 3. Like Edge Magazine gave it a 3. So
it is like it is what you go into it with is really you know, like, if your expectation is Pokemon, you're going to be sorely disappointed. But if who is this game for? If you're listening to me and you're like, would I like this game? The question I would ask you is, like, what do you like about Smash Brothers? Because it is a lot like Smash Brothers in that every character is totally unique and has strengths and weaknesses. There's really good characters and you're going to use them a lot. And there's really bad characters. You're going to try them and then you're going to never use them again because you do not jive with them. Do you like anime?
Somebody clip that. Do you like anime? Yeah.
And are you, I don't know, are you somebody who is attracted to gacha mechanics? You know, because there's people who are just like, no, I hate that. Like, I want what I want. And, you know, but so that's really what I would say. Like, well, I don't want to put it side by side with Smash Brothers because it is not right. You're going to be disappointed, but it's, if you enjoy Custom Robo and Virtual On and those kinds of games, and you want a faster, twitchier version of that, that's really what you're getting into.
Let me ask you about those, because you've mentioned the gacha mechanics. It's right there in the name. I think that gacha has got a very negative connotation, especially here in the West, it kind of like it's a dirty word now, right?
Yeah.
It means like scummy microtransactions or whatever here in the mobile age. But gacha is a huge part of Japanese culture.
It is, and
Um,
what it comes from is these basically little candy vending. They look like candy
Gachapon.
vending machines called gachapon.
Yep.
And it's funny how it's called gotcha in English because that's the English word that sounds like what it is, but it has nothing to do with like gotcha. Like the word gotcha doesn't mean what gotcha means in video games or in
right.
So it's basically you get a capsule toy from a vending machine. That's essentially what it is. And because of the random nature of that term is used to describe anytime there's like a random drop in a game. It's such a vague term, but that's basically what it means.
So how is that implemented in Gacha Force?
Okay, so in Gacha Force, there are characters you're going to get simply through playing through the story.
Right.
G Red, who you see on the cover here, this guy right here he was the coolest robot toy you could ever imagine.
I mean,
he's got a laser sword, and his chest becomes a giant laser beam, like Iron Man style. And kid you not, like he will be in every team you make in this game because he's incredibly useful and just destroys. G Red is a character you will get through story, and then anytime you become friends with a character, you'll get their main Borg as part of your story. Then there's the gotcha mechanic, which is 1,000% random.
Gotcha.
If you fight an enemy, there's a chance that after that battle, you'll get either a piece of that enemy, or you'll get the entirety of that enemy, or you'll get a variant color of that enemy. So if you get a piece of it, then you have to wait to get the other pieces through other battles through that same enemy. And every time you fight a boss, you get a piece of that boss.
That's cool.
Spoiler alert. You can play as every single thing in this game. Every enemy.
That's sick.
The final boss, if you play through the game 3 times, you get all the pieces to him, and you can play through the entire game as the final boss.
Yes.
If you have enough GF energy, which is the mechanic that prevents you from being OP early in the game. Basically, it's your experience. Part of what I haven't explained in this game yet is the whole like team mechanic, where which is where kind of Pokemon comes in. You create a team of toys, of characters, and the number of toys you can put on your team is determined by your GF energy, which grows as you play through the game. But when you start out, you can basically choose from some of the smaller, lower level characters who cost, let's say you have 100 GF starting out. Each of these characters cost 50, and you get 2 of them, right? And then higher level characters cost more. So you may be able to put the final boss in your team halfway through the game, but that's going to take up your entire team. And you better hope that they don't have some juggernaut on their team that's just going to destroy you. So it's a gamble. And that's kind of where the variety and fun comes with Gacha Force, because you kind of make your own sort of experimentation with the game. Through team creation and through like partnering different characters together, and through partnering your team with, sometimes you can choose an ally to go with you, an AI controlled ally from your friends, and your friends have different types of Borgs. Like there's a robot guy, there's a tank guy, there's a ninja guy, there's like a healing nurse girl, there's like a power girl who uses like power weapons. And so it gets deep as F, this game.
Sounds like
you know what I mean? Like, and every time you unlock a new character, it's like this moment of like, oh yes, let's go into something and try it out. Like you're so hyped to try it. And the game allows you to save multiple different teams for future use. So if you find a team that really you jive with, you can save it and then select that team later. What I always do is I always have a team that's like my experimentation team that's always rotating. And it's characters that like I really want to like, but I don't quite jive with yet, so I need to practice with. And if I go into a couple easy battles, I'll throw that team on. You got me on to talk about Gacha Force, and I can't shut up. So this is what you get.
No, look, this is exactly what I want. This is exactly what I want. Because you're right. Like the repository on the internet of like Gacha Force conversation is shockingly and sadly little. So I mean, yeah, right. So I mean, it's nice to actually have like conversation about Gacha Force. I mean, this sounds like a special game that should be talked about. And let me ask you this, Dan. If Capcom comes up to you, right? Let's say like you make this awesome Gacha Force documentary someday, Capcom catches wind of it. They're like, this is the dude that we need to field to get ideas for a modern Gacha Force sequel. What are some things? How would you approach Gacha Force in 2021?
Okay. So
big question, I know.
And this is not even something I've really thought about, because the very like it's never ever gonna happen. So why would I even entertain the thought, right? But like, so hypothetically, if they're like, what would you change about Gacha Force if you had like a Switch style like power level and modern gaming and all that? It would be really cool to get some kind of like trade battle mechanic, a la Pokemon online battle trade mechanic. I think like story gameplay wise, the thing that I would want more of Gacha Force to do is to open itself up more, because your gameplay is limited to a series of battles. If you break it down, there's no running around an open world or even traveling through a map. You choose your next battle and you do that battle. And that's it. That's the extent that you interact with the world outside of battling. So it would be really cool to go just all in with the Pokemon thing, and have maybe not like an open world, but at least some kind of world to explore where the world becomes the arenas. Because in Gacha Force, your arenas you're a tiny toy. And so the arena is like a picnic table or a sandbox or like a kitchen table, or, you know what I mean? So, and I always loved that. For some reason, I was always so attracted to video games that kind of like shrunk me down, and let me explore a relatively small space, but as something tiny. Chibi Robo, Toy Commander, like I mentioned earlier, something like Buck Bumble, where you're a bumblebee, you're flying around a backyard, and the backyard.
Buck Bumble. Yes.
Listen, if you don't have me on for Buck Bumble episode, we're gonna have problems,
dude. It's so. We're gonna have to do that episode, dude, because I literally just bought Buck Bumble a couple of days ago on. Do you know
who worked on that? This is not the Buck Bumble episode. Do you know who worked on that game?
Who?
Friggin' Argonaut, who made Star Fox, worked on that game.
Really?
Yep.
I could see that.
They did it for Ubisoft. So anyway, this is not the Buck Bumble episode, but those kinds of worlds to explore, like as something tiny, like running around a house or a neighborhood, even like something like Revolt, like your remote control car and the neighborhood is your racetrack. That always intrigued me so much as a kid, and I don't know why, but that that was part of Gacha Force that just really, really grabbed me. So like you're a kid, right? You're a normal sized kid and your Borg is a toy size. So you're running around the world. Suddenly you want to do a battle and now you're shrinking down and your battle is happening like on the dirt path that you were just on or something like that. You know what I mean?
That'd be so cool. Yeah.
I would love to see the game just open up way more into an open world and online battling and trading and really expand what you can do with the Borgs. Like if I'm getting pieces of a Borg, like can I build my own Borg with the pieces instead of having to wait to get all the pieces I need? And then you get like an extra bonus for building like the complete set, something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
There's just so much you could do with it. And just as far as honestly, that would be my one big want for this game, is for the world itself to be more available.
Right. I think you tap into something interesting there, because as you were saying that, it occurs to me that maybe that is what people were sort of looking for. Maybe that is why it doesn't quite latch on the way that Pokemon and Digimon did, because they gave you a world to inhabit. I mean,
Yeah.
Gotcha Force had all the trappings of it, but it's like, let me explore that world. You're right. I mean, like, I think that would make it feel so much more interconnected. Not that, like, the base is so solid. The canvas that they have painted upon is so solid. But yeah, it'd be great to see them take another crack at Gotcha Force,
Because
but with
this is the kind of game that would have benefited incredibly well from a sequel, because it was missing some very vital mechanics, but the mechanics that were there were so solid. Like the battle arena in that game is just a joy. Like jumping into a new battle. It's one of those one more game.
Yeah.
It's one of those. You get out of a battle and you get a new Borg and you're like, okay, now I got to go in with this new Borg. Like I can't stop playing now. And then you do that battle and then you come out of it and you're like, okay, I leveled up. I got to make a new team with my new GF energy. Like, okay, then we'll go to the next battle. And then like, and there are story beats, but like you just want to keep going. And that's how I put 200 hours in this game. Is it is a one more game. It's Splatoon.
Yeah, right. I love it, man. I love it. I wish this game were more readily available to play. I wish that people could.
It plays very well on a Dolphin emulator.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Well, I mean, like in most cases, you and I are both on the same page when it comes to emulation, but when it's a situation like this, it's like,
just go emulate it. I don't even care. Just go do it.
Yeah.
It deserves
it's
to be
tough.
Played. Capcom's never going to touch it. Nintendo's never going to touch it. It's going to be $500 for the rest of its freaking life. Just go emulate it. It's
yeah.
Get a controller though. Don't try to play this game with a mouse and keyboard. You'll
oh yeah,
you'll
I'm
die.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Maybe Capcom catches wind of our Gotcha Force Keep Nintendo Weird episode, and they do another random reprint. Apropos of nothing.
They're not.
That would be nice.
Don't get my hopes up.
That would be nice. Yeah. So, I wish I could say, guys, go out and buy this or whatever. I mean, hey, if you have $500 laying around, sure, look it, why not? But that was my Justin Masson sure look it, by the way. But yeah, so I mean, like, if for those who are kind of like looking at this and who are interested, hearing Dan talk about it and whatnot, emulation is probably the only reliable way to get your hands on it, unfortunately, right now. But it's recommended to at least give it a whirl. I mean, it's a really fun game. It's, if you're into the Saturday morning cartoon, if you're into the like a fun kind of vibe, sounds like it's right up your alley. And we love it, man.
It takes a little bit to get into. I will say that you're going to have to give it an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours before all of the mechanics start to come together, and before you get enough GP to really start having fun with the team creation. So don't give up on it right away. It takes a little bit to learn. But if you have any questions, at me.
Hey, there you go.
You have a resource.
More incentive.
Here is your resource. I am, as you can tell, I am very happy and willing to talk about Gotcha Force to anyone at any time.
I love it, man. I love it. And again, we're definitely gonna have you back on the show. We'll talk Buck Bumble at some point,
dude. Yes,
for sure. But
it's so good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love it, man. I again, thanks so much for coming on talking about Gotcha Force. I wish this was something that we could say, hey, go out there and pick up a copy easily, but we can't.
You should be able to do that, but you cannot. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm flipping through the instruction manual now because I haven't actually looked through it, and it's just incredible.
You have it. Well, hey, man.
There's dragons. There's literal spaceships. You can be a spaceship and fly around.
I mean, come on.
There's ninjas with shurikens, gigantic shurikens on their back, and they spin around and fly into you and try to kill you. There's guys with Gatling guns. There's robots that dig underground and come up and kill you. There's vampires. Literally name something, and it's in this freaking game. Sorry.
I love it. I gotta find a way to play it myself, man.
I guess we're wrapping up now. I'm sad that we're wrapping up.
No. Look, I love it, dude. I absolutely. We could sit here all night just talking about games, but hey, let's one last time, man. Kind of point people in your direction. Where can folks find you online?
Yes, please go to retrologic.games. That's our URL, and
Yes.
everything is there. Twitter, game store, merch. I have another podcast my brother started called Retro Groove, and it is
Right.
all about vintage vinyl collecting and just music history. It has nothing to do with video games. It's just another passion of my life, and it's awesome because I don't have to run it. My brother runs it because he's a vinyl collector.
Autonomous.
I was on it this week, so you can listen to my voice there too this week. You can also find the RetroLogic podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Just search RetroLogic, one word, and go hang out with us. I'm out of breath.
gotta like decompress the energy.
Out of breath, man. You got me talking about Gotcha Force, and I can't talk anymore.
Great, man. Anyway, we love it. Guys, go follow Dan, everything he's doing with RetroLogic. Again, you're gonna find links to all that in the episode description. If you want to keep up with us here on Keep Nintendo Weird, you can follow me at KNW Podcast. You can keep up with All N by subscribing here on YouTube. If you're watching the video version, you can like and subscribe at All N Podcast. We're on all the podcast feeds as well, even begrudgingly iTunes. And you can find us anywhere fine podcasts are sold. But guys, Dan, thanks for hanging out.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So love hanging out with you.
Absolutely.
Love hanging out with you. Any chance I get, definitely going to have you back. And yeah, anyway, guys, have a great time. Go have fun, create what you want to create. And thank you for helping me keep Nintendo weird. Bye.